Wonderful. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Terry Phillips, and I am the facilitator for the Waukesha County Heroin Task Force Community Coalition. And this is our first community partners meeting, quarterly community partners meeting, say that fast 3 times, of 2026. So we're really, really happy to have you here today. I'm going to maybe just, rather than go right into the slide deck, I think I'm just going to, I'm going to go into the slide deck. I'll start the slideshow, but I'm going to turn it over to Larry, who's going to welcome everybody while I share the screen.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm excited to see what's already 39 people today on getting nicer spring weather. I'm hoping that blizzard was winter going out with a blast, and it was nice how quickly it all melted. But we have so much going on with the Heroin Task Force. I'm excited to have you hear all the things we have planned for today. And I'm guaranteeing you that when we have our first in-person meeting of the year, that on June 9th, where we'll be meeting at the Business Alliance conference room, which is a beautiful facility, the weather will be warmer than 48. I'm going out on a limb and predicting that will be the case. But right now, it is my great honor to introduce our county executive. And I think I've probably said this before, but when I go to these National Association of County conferences, there are a lot of counties that do not have the support of their county executive or county board chair on these issues. And we're very fortunate from day one, we've had the strong support of Paul Farrow. And even while he continues on his roller coaster of health issues, and he has always made it a point to be with us, to welcome us, and we can't thank him enough for his support. And our county motto is leading the way, and Paul Farrow demonstrates that every day, but especially on these substance use issues. So, Paul, welcome. You're looking like there's less of you, but I'm hoping that's still a positive on your not recommended weight loss program. So, welcome. Give us an update on your health if you're willing, and we're happy to have you with us.
Well, thanks, Larry. I appreciate it, and I'll apologize for the voice. As Larry alluded to, I'm still kind of dealing with what's going on. We're 4 treatments into a new experimental immunotherapy process for this type of cancer. Seems to be working well. The biggest problem is it causes significant dehydration, and so trying to keep hydrated has been a challenge for me. I working with a group out in Conomowoc, Balance Health and Wellness. And as I say, they're my suppliers for saline. So I go in and get some IV bags. It seems to be the best way to get fluids in me. Still trying to figure out if I could do it like with a margarita, but we haven't tried that yet. But I just want to take a moment again, as I say it every time I talk to the team. Thank you for what you do on a daily basis. We are making a difference, and it's a challenge. It is going to be an uphill climb. We know that, but we realize bringing the resources together is helping to make a difference. And my good friend over at HHS, John Kettler, sent me a couple of bullet points to keep me apprised of what's going on. And again, I just look at this in 5 or 6 bullet points. What you all are doing is amazing. I know you're going to hear a little bit later from Elevate Inc. talking about the survey they did with the Addiction Resource Council and us to get into the schools to find out what's going on. It's amazing if we could get kids to realize we're here to help them and hopefully try to stop what could start in high school for them. it's the challenge. As I look back, I think it was 2017, we declared the emergency around fentanyl. And I'll go back, and I wish we could just have the COVID years from 20 to 24 disappear. But if you look at the numbers coming out of COVID, we're seeing a decrease in drug-related overdoses. Unfortunately, we're seeing an increase in the amount of fentanyl-related overdoses. So we still have a lot of work ahead of us. We still have some efforts to get out there and keep that moving. But what I'm really excited about are the opportunities ahead of us. I know there's a partnership with WCTC to work on the ASAM, the addiction medication program and placement criteria. All these little pieces of the puzzle keep coming together and giving us an opportunity to make a difference. And you'll find out next month as we roll out the strategic plan for the county. One of our primary tenets that we're going to be looking at the next 3 years is mental health and how we can impact and how we can deal with mental health in the community, within the county workforce, but really how we can partner throughout the different areas of the community to make sure that people realize we're here to help at all different levels. And I know we've had some great success in peer partnership programs with our schools. When I think about the embedded social worker program we have with the Sheriff's Department and with a couple of municipalities, Waukesha and Brookfield, I hope to expand on that so that we can bring the resources to the people when they need it, which helps reduce the impact on our law enforcement so they can be out on the roads looking for other challenges and keeping us safe. So there's a lot that's going on. I know all of your programs have a lot going on as well. And I thank you for all your efforts as we move forward. Personally, I thank you for all the prayers. I know it's a challenge getting up every day for everybody. And as I kind of have joked, I said, look, if I lost my sense of humor, I'd be in a lot of trouble. Days aren't easy, but being able to get up and work for the county is one of the reasons that gets me out of bed every single day. And being able to make a difference in the lives of 400,000 plus people in what we do. And we'll continue to strive that. So you guys have a great meeting, a great opportunity, and always know if there's anything I can do from the county exec's office, we're here to help. And Larry, all you need to do is ask.
Hey, Paul, I think the cancer has improved your sense of humor. So that's one of the positives to keep your sense of humor. I think that's one of your great strengths. And I'm serious. I think you've gotten funnier. So we'll look forward to when you do your stand-up.
I'm going to have to go on to the stand-up circuit soon.
Yep. Terry, one more thing. Yep. I wanted to recognize 3 of my county board colleagues that are with us today.
Yes.
I think a lot of people know Supervisor Christine Howard, who is the OG of the Heroin Task Force. And she was here before me at the beginning and continues to be one of the most actively engaged elected officials on these issues. But I'm very excited to mention the 2 newest supervisors that were appointed in the last year are joining us today. One is Supervisor Deb Schrader from Muskego. She is both an alderperson as well as a county supervisor. So if you live in Muskego, you should see her name on the ballot. Not that I'm trying to get political here, but the other new supervisor who's with us is Supervisor John Gescheidmeyer. And if you vote in the August 11th primary, you will see his name on the ballot as one of 3 candidates to replace Sheriff Severson, who is not running again. And I'm sure outside of this meeting, John would be happy to answer any questions that you have about your organization and how it interacts with the Sheriff's Department, or could if there's a new sheriff. So thank you, Christine, Deb, and John for joining us today. And Terry, it's back to you.
Thank you so much. Supervisors, we are so glad to have you here today and hope that you find this extremely informative. Paul, thank you for being here today. We always appreciate your words of advice and updates, and you are in our prayers for sure. So we will keep you for sure in our prayers. All right, I'm going to share my screen real quick here. In addition to some of the new folks here, we have a few new members that have joined us. Y'all can see my screen okay? Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. So Kathy Kramer couldn't be here today, but the Dean of the School of Education and Human Services at Carroll is now on our list and joining us. We had a wonderful conversation. I don't know, Macy, if you are here or not. I didn't see you on the list, but we have a fantastic pharmacist from Pick and Save in Menominee Falls who is now on our list and working very closely with Freighter and Elevate and Captain Casta for the drug take-back days. So I'm really excited that she is joining us. And Ashley and I have crossed paths over the last decade in a variety of different ways, and she is now in the behavioral health services area in pro healthcare. And so we're really glad to have her here. And I don't know, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second here. Is there anybody else today who is new to us today that just kind of do the raise your hand maybe on your React screen? I'm looking to see here. Anybody else new that we're missing? All right. All right, then we'll keep moving along. All right, so real quickly, just to kind of get us going here, you guys all have the agenda, and Rachel also put it in the chat for you. We're going to start with some updates, important updates that are going on with the Heroin Task Force. We'll get a great update from Mark Leonard from the School District of Waukesha on the new recovery school, high school that's opening in September or August or whatever, fall, we'll say fall. And then we also are really excited to hear the results from the Waukesha County environmental scan. So County Executive Farrell alluded to that. So that is what we'll be doing today. We're also going to share a grant some information about a grant that we received and go into some small group conversation about how we might use some of those dollars based on what we're learning from the environmental scan. So the question is, do you have something to share with our task force? So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and ask Rachel to pop our Padlet into the chat. So I'm going to bring this up for you. She's popping the link into the chat. So Padlet is a platform by which we can share information. So I created a few different buckets for you. And over here on the left-hand side are partner announcements, and you just scroll up and down here. You guys can see my screen, right? Yes? Okay, good. So there's some great information. George has posted the Recovery High School, some great information about the merger with ARC and Family Service. This is information that you can click on to get some information about our action teams, and they're going to do a little report out at the end. I just popped in this information about LinkedIn so you could see how to use it. Great. I see some questions that are coming here. Nicole has posted a little prompt, and you can respond and reply to these. I also popped in a couple of other columns. Here's what I can give. So if you have some things that are happening that you want to offer out to people, or if you need help, this is where you can post. So you just click on a plus sign and you can post. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and ask if you guys have any questions about the Padlet that we're using.
Terry, is that just available during the meeting, or
No,
was in
no.
the link with
Yeah.
the agenda for today?
Yep. So it's in the link for the agenda today. It's not going anywhere. And I'm going to lock it down probably in a week or so. And then I create a PDF off of it so we can post it on our website. And the links stay hot, even in the PDF format. So I'm thinking I might do this once a month. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't gotten too far. I don't want to get too far ahead, but I think it's a really great way for everybody to share information. And then we can take information from here and post things on LinkedIn as well. So great question, Larry.
So, Terry, as a former middle school English teacher, I'm excited to learn a new vocabulary word. I've never heard the word Padlet before. It's like a small pad of paper with notes. Where does the word come from?
It's the name of the software. I don't know
Oh,
if
it's the
there's
name of
any, yeah, it's just the name of the software. So,
the.
all right.
Okay. And Piglet from Winnie the Pooh gave permission, so we're good.
I think we're good to go. I think we're good to go. Um, if you have anything verbal you want to share, we can absolutely open that up now or I invite you all to stay if you would like to hang out in the water cooler section or time, if you will, from 4 to 4:30. I'm going to keep the Zoom room open. So if there's things that you want to chat about or meet with another partner, I can put you in a breakout room. We can take care of that for you too. So at this point, I think we are going to head over. I think, Francis, I think I'm sending it to you.
Yep. So, Felicia and I, as members of the metrics and measurement subgroup, just did a brief overview of the Community Partners Wrap-Up Survey. So this is the results of the survey that this group took at the end of 2025 to figure out how we're doing as a coalition.
And I just gave you slide control, so you should be able to advance the slide. There you go.
Okay, so some of the slides is just sort of the health of our coalition. And so to start out by saying there was about 51 respondees to this survey. However, only 34 people really answered all the questions throughout. So the first few questions we had 51 respondents, but it really dropped down to a core 34 over time. So that's just something I wanted to note. Of the respondents who took the survey, about 84% said that they were able to attend at least one meeting. And of those people, 83% said that the Heroin Task Force benefited them and their organization. We asked a little bit of questions about sort of the people's understanding and if they thought emails were helpful. So most respondents really liked the emails. 71% said that they found the information distributed through email useful, and 97% said that email frequency was just about right. So the emails Terry sends out to us, people really seem to like them. A few people added suggestions that they might want them to be shorter or more frequent instead of really long email updates. But overall, people were really satisfied with Heroin Task Force and the way we communicate. Then we asked, what do people like most about the quarterly Heroin Task Force meetings? And we had people actually rank the importance of Heroin Task Force agenda items based on the importance to them and their organization. The top three were varied and knowledgeable speakers, opportunities to network and build relationships with partners, and discussing data and finding out what other data is available. Some of the things that were ranked lower included small group conversations, action team updates, and participating in the strategic direction of Heroin Task Force. And this is really important because it helps the steering committee and design team decide what is going to happen in these quarterly meetings. Because while we wish we could do everything, getting through this many things in just 2 hours is not possible. So we need to prioritize. When asked more specifically what people wanted to see in Heroin Task Force meetings, some of the themes that came out were a desire for more action, and clear next steps, more local data and trends, strategic direction for the task force, resource and program updates, peer learning and external examples, and honest conversations about challenges. So you can see that we're starting to have a little bit of tension between what we're prioritizing and then what people are writing that they want to see more of. So when we're looking at wanting more strategic direction with the task force, but then overall people are ranking that lower, it's hard to decide where to include the larger group versus smaller group. So that's just something that the steering committee and design team will need to take into consideration of sort of individual people's wants and needs, and then sort of the overall understanding and want for the Heroin Task Force as the year goes on. Then we asked people sort of, are we achieving what we're trying to achieve? So we asked this question in three sort of unique ways. So the first one was like, do you think Heroin Task Force is having a positive impact on the community? And 65% of the respondents, which again, by this point, we got down to about 34 people, 65% of them said sort of the highest two categories, like we're making a very strong or we're making a moderately strong impact. Then we asked people, are we meeting our purpose statement? And our purpose statement for the Waukesha County Heroin Task Force is to save lives and strengthen community health by addressing substance use together through collaboration, data-driven strategies, and community-led action. So of that, 76% of those respondents agreed we were meeting our purpose statement. So those are like the two highest categories that you could have selected on the survey. Then we asked, do you think our community response is stronger? And this was in relation to our mission statement, that our mission as the Heroin Task Force is to support residents by mobilizing community partners to reduce the harms of substance use, to increase the access to treatment and support recovery through education, collaboration, and bold action. And when asked, 68% of our coalition who responded to this question agreed that in the last 2 years, our response was stronger. Overall, I think this is really positive and we're trending in a good direction, that the majority of people who took the survey in Heroin Task Force do think we're moving forward and achieving the goals we set out. I also think it's okay that we're not at 100%, right? Because if you're at 100% of your purpose statement, then what are you doing? Like, why is that your vision moving forward? So I think this is a really good place for us to be. And I think we can look at how we increase the positive responses in these categories in the next year. Okay, then we asked people to give us some actual like examples of places we're moving the needle or we're having a challenge. So in doing sort of a summary of everyone's responses, it was really clear that members can see progress in awareness, collaboration, communication, and harm reduction, specifically naloxone access. But they're noting ongoing opportunities to strengthen data use, community engagement, and alignment of goals to fully move the needle. I pulled out just two quotes that I sort of felt like they highlighted the positive and maybe some of the challenges of moving the needle. So the first one is, overall, change in attitudes about the availability of naloxone and overall change in the stigma of addressing addiction, moving away from the idea that addiction is a them issue rather than an issue of the community. So I thought that was really positive to start seeing the shift in the landscape about the conversation around substance use and addiction in our community. And then sort of the antonym of that, someone wrote, I have noticed slow changes in the perception and understanding of addiction as a disease model more often than as a moral failing. So you can see that there could still be work to do, right? And in some spaces in our community, we're really feeling the shift in stigma and really seeing the progress, but maybe that's not the reality for every person in our coalition or every person in our community. So maybe just taking some time to stop and reflect and figure out where we're succeeding and why we're succeeding in those areas and where we still have work to do and how we can move the needle for those groups of people. This honestly was one of the more interesting data points to me and something I really kind of want to call out to this coalition. So of the 34 people that were responding by this point, 41% of them said that they participated in action teams in 2025, and 50% of them said that they would be interested in an action team in 2026. That's 17 people. So in the context of all of this and wanting Heroin Task Force to be such an important piece of substance use prevention and reduction moving forward, I think we need to sort of ground in that 17 people said that they want to work on action teams, right? And sort of put that in reality of to like what we can accomplish as a group. So I'm looking right now, there's 43 people on this call. If only 17 of them are willing to be on an action team, right? I think we really need to understand where we have capacity and what we actually have the ability to do. That was something that surprised me when I was looking through this survey. Additionally, we asked people what are some of the emerging priorities that might be suitable for some of the short-term Heroin Task Force work groups. So Terry has talked about what if we didn't have action teams that lasted like years? What if they lasted months? And we asked people to sort of come up with ideas for what we could address in some of those short-term groups. So some of the things people said were that there's rising stimulant use, that polysubstance use is actually a really big issue right now, as well as addressing co-occurring mental health needs, which maybe could tie into sort of the county strategic plan, as County Executive Farrow stated earlier. Someone said to focus on alcohol use disorder as an emerging focus area, to expand harm reduction strategies, to look more into diversion programs like the PARI style models, to think more about legislative advocacy and partner toolkits, to continue to do stigma reduction, especially around MOUD, to have data-driven response to anticipate next waves of substance use, and to strengthen cross-sector coordination and rapid response efforts. So always thinking about people's suggestions and then like the reality of, do we have the people to do that? And then is that a short-term or long-term action group? So I'm here mostly just to present you the data, and then we as a group can decide how to use that. And then the last thing I wanted to pull from the survey was there was a question at the end that said, is there anything else you want to share? And me and Felicia pulled this quote that we thought was quite timely, which is, I really think the name of this group should be changed. I know there was talk about this a few years ago, but the name is really outdated given the data. Heroin isn't the issue anymore. It would be great if the name could be changed to reflect the spectrum of drugs and drug use. It may make people more inclined to participate too. So that was a really fast update of the survey and what you guys said. And so hopefully you learned just a little bit from how the Heroin Task Force is doing and sort of the health of our collective.
Thanks, Francis. We just wanted to make sure that you all had an opportunity to see the results of the survey, and the steering committee, of course, was digging into this earlier. And as Francis alluded, we will be taking some of that information and continuing to make positive change. Thanks, Francis. Thanks, Felicia.
Terry, are you going to respond to that last comment, or is that somewhere else on the agenda?
It's somewhere else. It's coming up on the agenda.
Okay. Well, I just want to say in politics, 65% is a huge landslide. So I take that as a huge win. And we certainly have more work to do, but I find that very encouraging. And if we have 17 people that are not on an action team and they would join, that would be a huge increase in membership. So I hope the steering committee will talk tomorrow about if we can identify and invite those people. But I just want to say, if any of you are not on action teams, I believe we're going to address that later, how you can get involved.
Yeah, and I'm going to invite you to, if you click on the tablet, that second column, there are two of our action teams. And Francis and Felicia, I didn't put one out for you guys, your names, but I do have a slide that has your contact information as well. But the recovery support team did some in-person action planning, and we added several new people on that team, and it was really a wonderful afternoon. So thanks, Larry.
And Terry, I meant to thank Francis and Felicia for their excellent work on the survey. We have always strived to be data driven, and I think this survey will help us as we move forward this year and in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate the help because we added some really key questions this year. So thanks so much, guys.
Terry, can I go ahead and give the
Yeah,
voices update now?
absolutely.
So we are so close to our goal. We have about 160 participants that have completed our survey. We really want that number to be about 190. Our survey has been extended until March 31st, and we have a few packets left if anyone needs some extra ones to pick up, or we can drop them off to you. So we would encourage, if you have any of the survey packets, please get them to individuals and have those individuals complete our survey.
Awesome, Felicia. And Felicia and Francis, do you have any update as to when data might be available to us?
Yeah, we are hoping for that our next quarterly meeting will be able to have some data to present.
Fantastic.
We
Wonderful.
finally have a preliminary contract with Marquette. Took us a long time to get there, but we are having our corp counsel review it right now. So we have people on board to do the analysis. And then also I just really wanted to thank the Heroin Task Force partners that have helped us get this out there. This would not have been possible if some of our partners in Heroin Task Force hadn't helped us advertise the survey. And you guys have been really crucial and really amazing in helping us get these respondents. And I'm hoping we get some new information that helps us make better decisions as a county.
Thank you so much, Francis. And she just popped in the information into the chat, and they'll go anywhere and drop these. So we took 50 of them at the support of the Recovery Support Coalition Action Team or Action Team planning. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you both.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to invite Nicole Kelly to co-present with me on this piece of it. Just kind of briefly here, we're going to fly through a little bit of a communications update on for the Heroin Task Force. All right, Nicole, I think I'm going to let you go first. Does that sound okay?
So just a quick overview of the things me and Terry are going to touch on quickly. Just your regular reminder that the Heroin Task Force has a LinkedIn page. My coworker Lisa and the steering committee have been working hard on an About Us document that can be handed out for people who may be interested in joining. And then, as Terry teased earlier, we've been pondering a name change, so she'll cover that as well. So about the LinkedIn page, this is just your regular reminder. It exists. We need your help to support it. I just checked the data at the end of 2024, which was right when we introduced the page. We had 108 followers, and as of today, we have 384. So we're still moving. We're still getting there, but we encourage you to invite colleagues to follow the page, specifically if they work in fields where they might interact with people who have substance use issues. We post 2 to 3 times a week, and I want to send a thank you to Jamie and Joy and the whole stigma reduction team. Jamie really manages the content for us, keeps us on a calendar, and we really appreciate all their support and all their ideas, and that's where you guys come in as well. Feel free to scan the QR code or send Jamie an email, whatever works better for you. We're always looking for content ideas. And they can be partner updates, they can be events. I saw in the chat that Terry said we'll share the upcoming Drug Take Back Day events. So if you have anything like that, please let us know. We want to use the page to support messaging and events of our community partners, but we can't do that unless you guys give us a heads up. So thanks, we really appreciate you.
Yeah, and the other thing, Nicole, just to add, your reposting and liking and everything, though, that's really important. So just reposting our posts is really critical to get us up in everybody's feed. Am I saying that correctly? I'm not a communications person.
Unlike Facebook and some other social media that have really weird algorithms and you don't know why you're seeing half the stuff you're seeing in your feed, LinkedIn is really driven by what people in your network are posting and liking and reposting. So that is the biggest thing you can do to support our page, is to just quick hit the like or repost or just quick comment like cool, good stuff. All of that helps our page gets seen by other people.
Sonia, you have your hand up.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Just to
afternoon.
clarify, you guys would help us share information on LinkedIn if we email to both of those emails.
Either one of
Wonderful.
those, it's the same person. She has 2 emails. So yes.
Got it.
And Sonia, I think we posted out like the well book when you guys were doing your open house and stuff like that. But yes, thank you for bringing that up. So all partners, we're pulling off of that Padlet. That will give us some information. But I really appreciate you pointing out, Sonia, that we can post partners, our partners. That's what we're here for, is posting
Awesome.
events and things like that. Thank you. Any other
Thank you so
questions about
much.
that? Great. All right. And then the last thing that we wanted to cover, and I guess the second to last thing. So this About Us document is really almost ready to go. We last year refined our vision, purpose, and mission statements. And we had all of our action teams update information. And the purpose of this is really an informative document about us, about the Heroin Task Force, so we can recruit new community members. We can put it at tables, leave behinds, things like that. So it'll point to our LinkedIn page. It'll point to our website. So it's a piece of our communication strategy. So we're getting close to that being finished. And then we alluded to, and Francis and Felicia kind of teed this up for us, our next chapter. Our work is evolving, and so is how we're telling our story. So the last couple of years, we've had several people share their feelings that maybe it is time for a name change, and it's hard to do a name change. What I will tell you is that we are exploring some different names and logos. The steering committee has said, hey, we want to keep the colors. The colors are important to us. Those are special colors for recovery as well. So we are not shifting our colors, and we're going to put something at the bottom that says formerly known as the Heroin Task Force. So there is some connection. But we've got some really good ideas, and the steering committee are looking at them tomorrow. So more to come, and stay tuned for an announcement. Once we settle in on that, we'll be able to get the About Us page done and continue to move forward. Anything I'm missing, Nicole?
Nope.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and take a moment to see if anyone has questions about anything that we have talked about up to this point. While you guys are noodling, I'm also going to just do a quick poll. I just thought it would be helpful for you to see who's in the room today, who's in our virtual meeting room today. I'm thinking, nope, you guys are not co-hosts. My facilitators in the small rooms are not co-hosts. So, all right, so if you guys can take just a second, and this is a single choice. I kind of went back and forth, because I know many of you play different roles and wear different hats, but for today's meeting, who are you in our coalition meeting today? All right, we have 36 of you, 87% responded. I'm going to give it about 5 more seconds here. All right, let me show you what we've got. So what we're seeing is, I didn't shift the ranks, so let me just scroll down for you. So we've got one healthcare, and I think that would be Ashley. I'm calling you out, Ashley. Behavioral health is well represented. Public health, no one from our business community, but we're working on that. I'll share some information on that too. We have several elected officials. Thank you all for being here. Education, higher K-12 and higher ed, first responders, some folks from our justice system, a lot of folks from our community-based organizations or nonprofits, and others. I know we have a couple of community members here as well. So I just thought that might be helpful for you to see who is in our room today. All right. At this point, I am really excited to introduce Mark Lenner. Mark is the Director of Student Services at the School District of Waukesha. He serves on our steering committee. He's a fabulous partner for us. We are really grateful to have him on our committees. And he gave us a little information about the Recovery High School last September, and he has more news for us today. So you can take it away, Mark, and you got the presentation on your end.
All right. Well, thank you, Terry. I am going to share out my screen here. Looks like everybody can see that. So
Yep.
thanks for having me today. We good?
Yep.
Okay. So today is an update on our Recovery High School project, which is we are currently planning to open a Recovery High School in the school district of Waukesha in the fall of 2026. So when we return to school in September, we will have a Recovery High School program up and running in the district. And in a bit of breaking news that I literally found out about 3 hours ago, the location of that school will be at what was formerly the STEM Saratoga campus, or the Saratoga School, right next to the Harvey Phillip building. And for those of you who have been in Waukesha for a long, long time, you might remember the Harvey Phillip building as our previous alternative school, and also where a previous iteration of a Recovery High School was located. So we're bringing it back to where it all started with the new Recovery High School for the fall. So just a few quick things that I wanted to cover with you today. I think most of you probably already understand what a Recovery High School is. I'll certainly have time to take questions at the end if you have sort of specific questions. Some of the data that has led us to this decision to open that Recovery High School program, we'll talk about that a little bit. Our timeline, just a quick review of our mission and vision for what we're planning to create. A little bit of talk about those community partnerships that we hope to strengthen through this process. We are going to need help, not necessarily financial help, but help in terms of setting it up and staffing and so on and so forth. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. And then what a Recovery High School student looks like, and then also what the staff looks like. So what is a Recovery High School? It's a school designed specifically for students negatively impacted by substance use and oftentimes with social or emotional issues. The goals of the high schools are to educate students and support them in their recovery, and to meet Wisconsin state requirements for awarding a secondary school diploma. We may have situations in which a Recovery High School student is with us for a period of time and then goes back to their home high school because we're looking for students throughout Southeast Wisconsin. But we may also have situations where students come and don't want to leave, and we kind of expect and anticipate that. And so we want to make sure that they earn their full credits in order to receive their high school diploma and move on to what's next. We want to ensure that all of those students are in recovery and working on a program of recovery from substance use as determined by the student and the school, and that's where those community partners will come in. We expect to have students who are getting help from a variety of sources, and so we'll have to build relationships with those various treatment programs to help our students remain successful. We'll also support that recovery on a daily basis, including small groups, large groups, small groups, check-ins, and peer mentoring. We plan to have a licensed provider on site for that purpose, someone not affiliated necessarily with the school district, other than we may employ them or they may be at our building for billing purposes, for insurance, for things like that. And then finally, to build on those strong partnerships that I've kind of already touched on. This is a map where recovery high schools are already located across the country. You can see lots of them on the East Coast. And actually, some of the biggest areas of growth for recovery high schools over the last few years have been in Texas and Florida, and also in Washington, and in and around Portland, Oregon. The main reason that you see them in these areas is because these are places where the legislature has decided to fund that. And here in Wisconsin, that's the same case. We're being funded in part through a grant through the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. So we're getting that funding to help defer some of the costs to the district. Not the entire cost, of course, and we're fortunate that we have a building that we can utilize for this purpose. That's probably the biggest cost and will be the quickest savings for us as we move forward. But especially in Texas, recovery high schools are really kind of popping up in various parts of Texas, in no small part because of the way that they're being funded through the legislature, which is really encouraging to see. So in terms of what we were looking at for a need for a recovery high school, the first four bars on the graph here are completed school years, and the last bar is our current school year. So right now we're in the 25-26 school year, and you can see these are AODA-related pre-expulsions or expulsions. So what's a pre-expulsion? That's when a student has to meet with me. A student brings a mood-altering substance to school. Quite often, it's THC. There have been some instances of alcohol this year, actually more so than in years past, which is kind of interesting. But as a result of their actions, the student then is suspended for 5 days pending a meeting with me to determine next steps. It doesn't mean the student's going to be suspended for 5 days. That's the maximum that's allowable under state law. And then the meeting is set up with me to pretty frequently go through a behavioral contract and some restating of expectations and how we're going to move forward and support that student and how they're going to make amends for the mistake that they made in bringing something to school. And so you can see over the years, 22, 23 with 80 instances was the high point. This year with about 1/4 of the school year remaining, we're at 47. So that's kind of encouraging. And in the gray there, that's the expulsions. That's a situation in which a student has had multiple offenses of the same type. So they've, for example, brought THC to school on 3 or more occasions. And that's where our school board has kind of drawn the red line and said, if that happens, we want to see that student and make a determination as to whether or not they're going to be able to continue. Just because a student is expelled does not mean they don't receive services. In fact, most of our students who are expelled do continue to receive educational services through us, typically through eAchieve, which is our virtual platform. But the recovery high school could be an opportunity for those types of students to get back into a brick and mortar classroom as long as they stay sober, as long as they live a sober lifestyle and they manage their commitments to the school district can then continue to educate that student. So where we're at right now, we're really in the process phase, moving left to right. We're planning for implementation. We've worked very closely with the Association of Recovery Schools, who is sort of the umbrella organization that supports recovery schools across the country. And we're ready to get to work with them on opening this building in the fall. So we'll be looking at implementation in September. Some of the things that we've done is, as I mentioned, we've created that connection with ARS. That's the Association of Recovery Schools. They actually have an accreditation process by which recovery schools are accredited both for academics and for their treatment program, their recovery program. And we've been working with them along the way to make sure that we're meeting all the tenets of that that process. Now, we're not in a position to be accredited, of course, because we haven't opened yet. But rather than having to do the work later on, we're doing the planning now so that eventually we can pursue that. In terms of future activities, we'll be partnering with them on continually adjusting the program, working through it, making changes, things like, how do we build enrollment? How do we staff? What kind of curricular programming are we going to offer? What kind of recovery programming are we going to offer? So those are all things that we're looking for now and into the future. And by the way, the whole presentation is linked in the chat box. So if you want to take a look at this more closely later, you can always do that. Our mission is to provide a strong academic foundation for students while in their recovery journey, fostering personal growth, responsibility, and resilience. We want to cultivate a supportive community where students build meaningful connections, and practice perseverance in order to navigate toward their full potential. Right now, the tentative name for the Recovery High School is Cross Point Academy. That hasn't been set in stone yet, but it's the idea of finding direction was very important to us. And of course, in a district where all of our schools are named after directions, west and south and north and east, we thought Cross Point was a nice play on that. So our vision is to be a community of hope and empowerment where every student receives a quality education, leads a healthy life of meaning and purpose, and is prepared for lifelong success on their journey. So what do these students look like? Oftentimes they're in early stage of recovery or emerging recovery. They have that history of use. Oftentimes or possibly they have co-recurring mental health needs. Their academics have probably been disrupted by their use. They've oftentimes had negative school experiences. They feel disconnected from school. So that's a really important part of the process. But on the other hand, because they're high school students, they're very resilient. They oftentimes want that fresh start. They want to get away from where they were, to get into a community that understands them and will support them. They oftentimes can be very empathetic toward their peers, and many students in recovery high schools have outstanding leadership capabilities that just have never been tapped. All sorts of academic levels, we're prepared to address that head on. We're well suited for that. They benefit from small relational classrooms with individualized learning pathways. Once they get into a recovery high school, their attendance typically does improve pretty quickly. And they are overall students who complete a recovery high school program, their recidivism or their dropout rate is about 10%. Without the recovery high school program, that goes up to about 27% because either they return to their use, or they don't feel connected to school and they'll drop out. So we're hoping to prevent that. How the students will grow is moving through those stages of change, having a strong peer support network that we'll have to build as the plane is in the air, and then building those healthy relationships and peer networks in the hopes that students will, continue to grow as individuals and be a better part of our community. For the staff, which we're currently working to staff, we have 2 positions that are posted. You do need to have a Wisconsin DPI license for these roles. The first is for the coordinator role for this position. So the actual principal of the school will be me. Little known fact, I'm already the principal at Riverview School, which is located in the Waukesha County Jail. I make sure that's on my resume because it's a small group, but they do the work. And then this will be a second school that I am the principal for, but the coordinator will run the day-to-day pieces. Does not need to have an administrative license, but does need to have a DPI license. And then we're already working to hire an instructor who will do the day-to-day work of helping students with their academics. So, and again, we're looking for people who want to provide individualized academic support, who will embrace and integrate the recovery concepts. They have a daily meeting. It looks a lot like any kind of a 12-step meeting that students will go through, where they talk about how they're feeling on that day. We'll collaborate across roles. There has to be a lot of collaboration. This is not a situation where people can work in silos, and we'll monitor their academic progress. And again, it really is about modeling those appropriate strategies and coping strategies, building those relationships, and being a compassionate person first and probably a teacher second. How else they contribute to the school culture is those fostering those peer-to-peer connections. There's going to have to be some work done there. There'll be ongoing training. We're sending a number of people to the Recovery High School, the Association of Recovery School Convention this June. People are going to give up part of their summer to do that, but it's important work to do to help understand how to support our students. All right. Any questions from the group?
I was going to say, do you want to pop off screen share while you're doing that? I uploaded a PDF of the presentation to our Padlet, and I'll make sure that you guys have a link to that as well. Questions for Mark that you're pondering? Larry?
Do you have a projected student enrollment, and how will you recruit students for this high school?
So our projected student enrollment is actually going to be really small, like initially at least. We're thinking, realistically between 5 and 10 students. Um, with the goal to grow. The recovery high schools that we have visited and worked with typically max out about 20 students. So it looks less like a huge, like Waukesha North is over 900 students. Waukesha South is over 1,100 students. It's not going to be anything quite like that. It looks more like a program than it does a high school. And in terms of recruitment, we're going to get our name out there to all the different treatment centers, as well as our connections through the various school districts that we partner with. I mean, we get to know, I work with other directors, people in my role across Southeast Wisconsin, and we're absolutely going to yell it from the rooftops that this is out there and it's available, and we're happy to start enrolling kids. And we'll talk a little bit more. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but there's a variety of ways that this can be dealt with in terms of enrollment. It could be open enrollment. It could be intra-district transfer, where the one district would pay us for a seat, for example, or it could even, in some rare occasions, I think, be a situation where a parent could just pay tuition directly to the district for the cost of enrolling the student.
Well, Mark, I just want to say real quickly, first of all, I'm excited about Saratoga. My wife Dawn and I live in an 1890 Victorian house on Prairie and Hamilton. So if you as principal need a place to hang out, if you're stressed, we're right there. But
good to know.
Also be the county supervisor representing that school. So I'll be happy to help you. But I first got involved in these issues way back in the 1980s when the district had a student assistance program. So I am just thrilled to see this finally happening here, because there's been a great need of this. And it sounds to me like you're doing it the right way. And if I wasn't an old person, I would be applying for that job, because it sounds very similar to what we used to do at the county juvenile center, that did a great job of teaching kids. And I still remember Ryan was my evaluator for my 1 year there. So congratulations on all the work. And September is going to come fast.
Indeed. And thank you.
We're here for you, Mark, and you know that. I mean, the partners are you. I know you're going to lean into community partners. Megan Ballard, who works, she's a social worker embedded in the fire department, asked if she could share that presentation, and I said yes.
Absolutely, yep, you bet.
And
you have my contact information. I'll put my email address in the chat in case anyone doesn't have it. But feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns or thoughts that you may have.
We appreciate you sharing it with us and are excited to hear what else we can do to support you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now I'm going to move us quickly on to Brenda, who's got some really exciting news for us. And Brenda, I'm going to screen share for you if this will be helpful. Just one little slide for you.
Yes, thank you. I get the opportunity to just share with everyone some, I think, exciting news. I think you may have seen it already, but the Heroin Task Force did decide to apply for the State Opioid Response Funding Grant this award period, and was awarded, as you can see, a $33,000 and some change grant for our coalition work. And I am charged with telling you a little bit about the categories and our strategies, and taking us into what the possibilities of this of these dollars could look like with the Heroin Task Force. So again, it was the State Opioid Response Funding. Alliance for Wisconsin Youth is prevention, center, and there are regional contacts. I'm sure Kat is here somewhere. I don't know if I saw her name, but I'm sure she's here, and help support us as a coalition in implementing the different strategies that are encouraged and allowed with this grant. So I'm just going to outline, you can see it says SOAR strategies on the left side, and then the funding awarded amount. And then any notes, I'm just going to kind of highlight those different areas and tell you a little bit about what that could look like. In order to prepare for this, just so you all know, there were a bunch of us that got together and we started talking about different pieces of this. And I volunteered to sort of gather it up as much as I could and put our application out there with a lot of support from partnerships with people that are here today. And this is sort of where we landed. We do have some flexibility to move some of the dollar amounts. We have a mechanism to do that and a way that we need to do that. But just to kind of, if you think about the different strategies as we're talking, I want you to think about things that you're involved in or that you'd like to be involved in, because it's going to be up to this larger group to kind of put forward ways to utilize this funding. One thing I want to say is that the grant period is October 1st of 2025. We just were awarded and contracted this all out the beginning of March, so we're already midway in the year. So I want you all to keep that in mind. This will go until September 1st is when it ends, actually the end of August for us, that this money will need to be spent. And that these are the different strategies that we have elected. So the first one is are what we call the primary prevention strategies. So drug security and disposal, which includes the drug take-back events, permanent disposal drug boxes, prescription drug deactivation units, prescription drug lock boxes. So that's one of the first categories is the security and disposal. So we did put quite a bit of thought into what that would look like. We have several drug take-back events that already happen in our community. They're looking a little bit different this year, which this process with applying for this grant, I think, along with some conversations with partners, have allowed us to kind of shift a little bit. We have a new location for one of those events this year. We did put some funding in there for those events if needed. The drug deactivation units and the lock boxes, those are purchased by AWI and delivered because Elevate serves as the fiscal agent. We have been in receipt of the deactivation units already and are working with our partners with the ARC to get those over to their offices. And we will share distribution in the community of those units. And we're just waiting for the lock boxes. So that's the same. So those have already been determined, the dollar amount, those have been purchased and are being delivered to the two primary prevention agencies in Waukesha County who will help get those out into the community. So that is one of the strategies with the top four activities. Again, these are strategies that we can use. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the next one, which is our opioid overdose prevention strategies, which would include the prevention community education events and what that looks like. That strategy is the community education strategy to inform and educate community members, elected officials, business owners, and healthcare providers about the various risks associated with opioids and stimulants. This includes risk associated with improper storage and disposal of these medications, the risk of overdose associated with using opioids and stimulants in ways other than prescribed. So it's really an emphasis, this category, on events that could provide clear messaging, solutions, and resources surrounding the risk of overdose. And they do have a target age group on here of 16 to 24-year-olds. So I'm glad to see our collegiate partners on here today, because I think we have some opportunities both within with the schools and with the colleges. But some of the events that we could think about here would be maybe having a heroin task force table at the county-wide national nights out. I know that a lot of different agencies have been involved in those over the years, and maybe combining our efforts. We have some great literature coming out and a name change. This might be a great way to really be present as a coalition in the communities. So that could be an opportunity. We could do some hosting or fund speakers in partnerships with our college partners or our high schools. Any ideas that might come out of the stigma team? I know there's been a lot of ideas generated, so this could be a place for that. We also have a strategy, which is the overdose prevention community education events. And that one is a little bit different in that strategy is to increase our community's understanding of overdose prevention and build skills to respond. So it's important that when we think about this strategy, that we look at events that might educate and raise awareness for overdose prevention as an opportunity for collective action and investment that promotes a healthier, safer living for us. So again, they really would like us to try to focus on the target age group of 16 to 24-year-olds. And events could include, community education, maybe some business education. I know we talked earlier about there aren't any maybe business partners here today, but I know that's been an emphasis of this coalition, of this group, to try to increase our stakeholders and our relationship with some of the business community and outreach. I know that we spent a lot of time looking at the OFR strategies. This could be an opportunity there. It could be a collaboration with the harm reduction CHIP team. So I think that the possibilities are limitless, at least in terms of what we could do within these strategies. I think there's a lot of space, and it really aligns well with what we as the Heroin Task Force have set our mission and sort of vision to be in our community. The one thing that I didn't mention that I wanted to at the beginning is we recognize, because the grant is coming, we're getting the money sort of midway through the year, that this really is a foundational and a building year for us. We're building sort of the structure and this groundwork so that we can continue to apply for these funds and adjust. We had to do this in sort of a quick backwards fashion, I like to kind of call it. But I think we did a really good job with that. So the last two pieces I just want to point out, and then I'll stop talking and we'll move to the next piece, is there is an opportunity for us to put staff time into this grant, which we did, as you can see, is one of the strategies. So we've sort of created a structure that would allow some staff time of coalition members and different individuals who can fall in there. We had lots of ideas of what that could look like and where that would fall. But there's, again, just putting the structure in place, but there's a team, and Terry will probably talk about that we put together that will really look at this in greater detail and kind of move this forward. And then the school-based prevention programming, which is you'll hear about very soon. We're going to talk about the environmental scan and all of the great prevention work that is being done in the community, such as RTI, Too Good for Drugs, Detour, Prime for Life, U-Turn, all these programming. But we really have been trying to focus on the Recovery High School with this really great new program and looking at staff time and curriculum for that program to help support. So I just think there's so much potential. It's very exciting, and really happy to be a part of this whole thing. So I'm going to pause there. Our total award is $33,000. $3,412 is being spent by AWI and being sent to us as the drug deactivation units, the Deterra and the lockboxes. And then we're actually responsible to get our butts moving and spend $30,200. But we have a lot of things happening, a lot of, I think, really intentional work, and I'm excited about that. So Terry, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you for the overview. And I popped a few things into the chat. Elevate is offered to be the fiscal agent, which we're really extremely grateful for. Jamie Bauer takes care of federal grants on her day job, and she is offered to help. And then, like I said, we're putting together this little ad hoc team. We created a little project charter. We're working on that, and we're going to work on a way for you to submit for opportunities, expenses, things like that. So we're, as Brenda said, this is our first time as a coalition where a whole bunch of partners got together and put forth for a grant. This is, I'm hoping that we're setting the groundwork for doing this in the future. So that's where we're at this point. And I'll just pause to see if there's any questions before we move on to our next speaker. All right, I'm going to ask you before we head into Miles and John Kettler talking about the environmental scan, I'm going to ask you to just turn off your camera for 1 minute, stand up and stretch, and then we'll be right back.
I'm not that tall, Terry. It doesn't take me a minute to stretch.
I understand that. And Miles, if you are here,
I'm here.
All right, I am going to give you slide control while everybody's getting their stretch in and see if it's coming your way, and you should be able to advance the slides. Yep, perfect.
Beautiful. And then John, are you still here? Yep, I see you.
I am. In fact, I had my camera off. I did the hokey pokey. I stood up, I turned around, I did the whole thing.
All
The blood is
right.
flowing. I'm ready for this.
All right, you guys can
Fantastic.
turn your cameras back on, and I am so excited for John Kettler and Miles Payne to share with you the results of the environmental scan. Guys, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Terry. And nice job, Brenda. If it's all right, I'll set the stage, kind of just a little background for us, and then turn it over to Miles for the meat of it. Some great data here. Really excited about this. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is John Kettler. I coordinate the Integrated Services Unit for Health and Human Services, and I serve on the design team for the Heroin Task Force. And what we're talking about today is a great partnership with Elevate Inc. and the Addiction Resource Council that we collaborated to do a scan of all of the substance use prevention and mental health programming in the schools within Waukesha County. That goes K through 16, really, because universities were included. So an excellent data set here. This project's been several years in the making. There is no central repository for this information. There's no sort of state level website you can click on to see what prevention and mental health programming is happening in different schools. You can learn a lot about the different options that are out there, but in terms of what's happening in our county, we haven't known that, and that's been a kind of a bucket list thing. So I'm happy to say that we got there. Initially, this was conceived of as a project, maybe for like a college program, college class, and Miles had a really great innovation on how we can get the data. I'll let him share that. But it's an outstanding data set, 106 different schools, and it's really, I'm excited by this data. It's actionable, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say about it. So I just want to thank, from Elevate Inc., really want to thank Miles Payne, Joy Evans, Brenda Dunlap, Laura Ronitz, Jessica Warden, and Kayla Doge for all the efforts on this. And also the Addiction Resource Council, Family Services. Many thanks to Lindsay Just, Mary Simon, Haley King, Angela Blount, and Gianna Dixon. And also want to thank the clubs that helped with the data collection, and Miles will share about that for us. So I'm going to turn it over to Miles. I just want to say we're going to process this information on the back end. We're very interested in your feedback. What were your key takeaways? And particularly, what do you think are actionable items here? What are the next steps? And we want to make those goals for 2026 and 2027. I got a pad of paper, and I'm going to be taking a ton of notes. So, let's kick it off here, and I'm going to bounce the ball over to Miles.
Beautiful. Thanks, John. John shared a lot of thanks with everybody else, but of course, thanks to John for spearheading all of this. None of this happens without, your leadership and you really setting fire to it. So props to you and thanks to you for making this happen. I was going to present with another staff member of mine. Her name is Kayla. She works with Elevate, and she did a lot of she put in a lot of effort and a lot of time in typing and doing a lot of analysis. But unfortunately, she had a family emergency, so she could not be here. But wanted to shout her out as well as ARC and again John as well. So getting into how this kind of came about. As John mentioned, right, this is something, there's no repository for this. And so, okay, so is it the college class that does this? How do we make this happen? And at first it was ARC and Elevate just calling schools, trying to get anybody to respond to us. Nobody wanted to respond to us. Nobody wanted to talk to Miles about what's going on at the middle school level around prevention efforts. No one wants to do that. So instead, we came up with an idea of how can we utilize our peers for peers groups in Waukesha County. So if you are unfamiliar, Elevate does a program called Peers for Peers, which is almost like a high school club in 7 different high schools across Waukesha County. Kelly Erickson, if you've met her before, she's on here. She is our prevention coordinator. She runs the peers program in Waukesha County. And so we have kind of a network of both students and staff that are connected to Elevate, but also connected with their school districts around what's going on. So John, ARC, Elevate kind of collaborated, came up with a survey, and then through the peer groups, they were the ones that distributed the surveys to all of the other schools, kind of like a spider web, to actually get those results. And from there, we saw some tremendous, response rates because, when people are utilizing their relationships, hey, can you take this? This is really important versus some random person calling. That's where we really saw it take off. So all of that is to say, we have 75 responses that accounted for 106 schools. I think, Larry, you mentioned earlier about percentage rates. We're super, super happy about this percentage rate. A response rate of 83% out of 128 schools identified, we're super stoked about. But how does it break down by grade? I want you to pay attention to these blue bars on the bottom. So that's your yes, not your no's. You have your unsures at the top and then no data. We see a spike at 5, grade 5, and then dips back down, but then 7, 8, and then it kind of dips back down around 9. How I interpret that is trend of highest available grade, right? So if you're thinking of your traditional elementary, 5th is your highest. Is there something kind of out the door, or these are our most mature students in the building, they can handle something, but then back down 7, 8, 8, again, that prevalence is there. And then I think there's still some height at 9 being, and Mark, Jody, I think I saw you on here. You guys could speak to this better than I can. Is that just the easiest grade to do something like this? Is grade 9 versus the seniors or the juniors, ACT prep, anything like that, right? And as John mentioned, he's taking notes. So this is our interpretation, and we got some, notes at the back end, but we want to hear from you all. How are you interpreting this? What do you see? What do you not see, right? What things are we not currently thinking of? In regards to who's doing that programming, not just by grade, but who's doing it, you'll see that big blue slice of the pie is school staff. We kind of anticipated this, right? That a lot of the school staff are the ones doing it, but you'll see there's some combination. There's a lot of SROs that are doing this, and then outside agencies. Those are your ARCs. I see Mary's on here, right? Shout out to Mary. Those are your ARCs of the world, your Elevates of the world. We're very blessed to do so much with School District Waukesha and some other high schools in the county, but majority of the time it's school staff doing it. And so from them, not necessarily from your Elevates or ARCs, from them, what's the barrier to being able to implement this? You see at the top, that should come as no surprise to anyone, staff time scheduling. However, big shout out, look at that next bar down, 25% responded as there is no barrier. Fantastic, right? That was really awesome to see, is that there is no barrier. So how do we learn from those districts of why is there no barrier? How can we replicate that in other places? And also just continue to fortify and strengthen the fact that there is no barrier. Let's keep it that way. But ultimately looking at staff time and scheduling, what can we do to alleviate a lot of that? Beautiful. Thank you, Mark. I like that sweet spot. That's a good wording for it. So ultimately, all right, we know by grade, we know who's doing it, we know the barriers. Are you interested in more stuff? I think that was, John, you mentioned that to me. I feel like countless times at the beginning is like, I have so much I want to do, for these schools. I want to provide these things, but what do they really ultimately want, right? So gauge that interest. Is your school interested in resources to enhance its programming? A lot say yes, a good amount say no, and then a lot are unsure. The ability to act on that support might be informing that no or unsure, right? Like, I don't know if I can take any extra support because I already have some time and scheduling capacity issues. So this next slide being Oh, excuse me. So the next slide being switching into the more mental health side of things. We have that substance use prevention, but mental health, 58% of schools are implementing some kind of mental health education. Note a large portion of no data, right? So again, we can't say yes or no. We just have no data. Maybe that's a reluctance to answer definitively yes or no. We know a lot of times we do some mental health education, but it may not be a curriculum that's being implemented. It's just a, thing that's kind of happening, off on the side, here or there. So there might be some, reluctance to answer with that. What are the topics that are being implemented? This is something John really keyed in to a lot is, you see that top bar being general mental wellness. And suicide is not even the second highest, it's the third highest option, right? So over 40 schools are providing general mental wellness, right? Goal setting, positive social norms, coping skills. But, we might need to investigate further as to why only 21 schools report any kind of specific suicide prevention education. So some popularity of mental health programs. How many of you have probably heard of Second Step, right? That's very popular, right? Yep, I see that hand up from Mark. So Second Step, very popular, but kind of to my last, slide, that second bar, teacher researched, right? What does that really mean, right? Are we able to put a lot of, I don't want to say trust, but is that an evidence-based, right, clearly defined program that we can rely on, kind of like Second Step, or is it not, right? So kind of, again, exploring what resources might be out there that we need to explore to, further what types of programs we're choosing in regards to mental health and substance use. So then how many are happening at the same time? The co-occurrence, 53% are doing both, 8% substance use only, 21% mental health only. So that mental health is more likely to be taught alone than substance use. Again, just kind of continuing to, as John mentioned at the top, right, we have no centralized repository of these things. So now, hopefully, in the next couple minutes, right, we can break out into some rooms and talk through why is that, right? Why is the case that some are doing both, some are only doing one, and how can we get everyone to be doing both, right? What are the barriers, as mentioned earlier, and what are the localized factors we need to be talking through? So ultimately, some key findings: substance use prevention reported by 61% of schools, mental health education 74%, implementation varied widely by grade. Mental health education was more common than substance use prevention, but suicide specific education was reported considerably less often than general mental wellness. Capacity constraints and curriculum variability were cross-cutting issues. For substance use prevention, staff capacity was the most frequently reported barrier. I know Mary is on here. John, I would, if you would like, I would love to throw it back to you to maybe talk through some of those parallel barriers or parallel opportunities. I think I've been kind of weaving that through this whole time, but really, if you look at all of those, these are the things that we're hoping, as John mentioned with his, notepad, these are the things we really want to talk through as a coalition, as a community about as we move forward, how do we help eliminate stakeholder and stigma, right? Or stakeholder perception, stigma, right? We have a stigma reduction team. How do we eliminate financial constraints, right? Even the opportunities, partnerships, elevates ARCs of the world. and that program alignment. So John, I'll throw it back to you one more time. Mary, I know you're on here as well. Mary, please pop in if you would like. And yeah, thank you all so much for your time. Just super excited that this project was able to happen. It was no shortage of work from peers groups to John to ARC to Elevate. So it took a lot of hands, but really happy that it worked out.
Well, thank you, Miles. Nicely done. And really, you were the engine that drove this. You really took the ball and ran with it. Thank you. And as he said, there was a number of implications here. One thing I observed from the previous slide is related to the mental health program. I noticed that I did not see a QPR, question, persuade, refer, or mental health first aid as one. Sorry, the previous slide. The mental health methods and curricula. Yeah, didn't see either of those on there, and that surprised me a little. So those are ones that have been championed by our suicide task force. So, something to look at there. But moving back to the implications, what this essentially was that we completed a SWOT analysis. SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I didn't want to frame it in quite those terms, but that's essentially, how we processed the data after the initial. So with that in mind, we found some barriers. Staffing and scheduling capacity was an issue in both. And so these are parallel barriers, meaning that these are found in both the mental health and substance use arenas here. So the staffing and scheduling capacity, being able to work it into the curriculums, having someone available to do it, were barriers on both sides. As were financial constraints. There's perennially a money issue. So having, the right, curriculums or the desired curriculums, the desired times, have been a barrier. And then stigma and stakeholder perceptions. And sort of hit one of the nails on the head. There is historically a perception that discussing suicide in the schools will lead to an increase in suicide in the schools. And I just want to take a moment to say that the data does not reflect that, and that the programming out there has been very helpful, to those schools who have implemented it. So that kind of stigma and stakeholder perception can be a barrier. But there are some great opportunities, and that cross-cut both of these domains here. The strategic use of partnerships, and that could be with our prevention partners, with our mental health providers, with the substance use treatment providers. There are opportunities, and they could be, some can very much address both. And so there's opportunities there. Program alignment, same type of thing. And having different schools, for example, say perhaps one district might all go in on one type of curriculum or something to have some alignment, all rowing in the same direction there. So that is kind of what we meant by program alignment. And perhaps a standardization of the minimums with some flexibility. And what is meant there is that there is some concept of that there should be substance use prevention and should be mental health programming, and maybe what kind of a minimum would look like, this many hours in each grade, or this many hours in each level, something like that, but with flexibility so that no one's being particularly prescriptive about how or who accomplishes this. So.
Yeah, and Jody, I mean, we just met yesterday about that very same idea, right? Like kind of establishing some minimums around some high school prevention programming across, the school district of Waukesha, right? So this work is happening, right? And we see that in the numbers reflected that there's so much going on that we didn't even know was happening. But as John mentioned, right, bringing that to light, celebrating the fact that a lot of work is already happening, and using our combined community resources to really, fortify and structurally, solidify all the good work that is going on, and provide that support for schools that want to do more, as John just said, with that flexibility.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well said.
Any questions before we're going to put you in breakout rooms to do a little bit of working together for about 15 minutes, but Any questions about the report? Miles and John, I just wanted to note that Stephanie Engel popped, she was sharing an evidence-based curriculum program in there for consideration. So just, she
Oh,
popped that information in there.
thank you.
I'm also meeting with a former colleague. I used to work a lot with the schools. I'm meeting with her tomorrow on something else. I will mention this information because I'm thinking maybe you guys need to present it to them, to these superintendents. It might be a really good way to get that information out there.
Love that idea.
So questions before we pop you in. I'm going to go to the next slide while we're keeping an eye out. And yes, thank you, thank you. So we have some breakout room facilitators that are going to help you through this next part of the journey. We're going to place you in a breakout room. Rachel, did I say, I said 15, right? Great, fantastic. The questions that we're going to ask you to ponder, and your facilitator is going to take notes and lightly facilitate to make sure all voices are heard. What stood out to you from the environmental scan findings about prevention and mental health education in our schools? And the report, we linked it, we threw a link into the chat, so you've got the actual report as well. So what stood out to you? Where do you see the greatest opportunities to strengthen substance use prevention and mental health education in Waukesha County schools? And how could we potentially use the money, the dollars that Brenda talked about, along with our partnerships to help move these opportunities forward? So we're really eager to hear from you as to how we can do this. Any questions before we pop you into breakout rooms? The questions will be there for you. Breakout room facilitators, please share your screens. And if you have any questions, hit that little ask for help. All right. Take your hands off the wheel. We'll put you in the breakout rooms. Rachel, am I in a room?
You are not.
Okay, great. Perfect.
And Lindsay should be.
Lindsay. There she goes.
It just takes some time for some
It
folks.
does. Okay, I'm going to give us a little pause. Hi, Christine. Oh, you're on mute.
I said I got transferred out right away, so transported, I should say.
Transported. We're pulling you back out. Welcome back,
Yeah,
everybody.
I'm so excited to see 2 more county board supervisors involved.
It is so wonderful. It is so wonderful. Welcome back, everybody. How was the experience? Good?
Yeah, except Terry, you cut me off in mid-question.
Oh, I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It was Rachel. Rachel. Oh, and while we're here, I just want to thank my dear friend and colleague, Rachel. Rachel Moore-Barrett is from Nashville. You guys have seen her several times. She is one of my favorite people ever. So just thank you for being here and supporting us. We have just a couple of minutes before we get into our action team report outs. I would love to hear from maybe a team or two, just kind of what is an idea or two that stood out to you that you guys came up with? So either raise your hand or just come off of mute, please. Yeah, go for it, Jamie.
Thank you. So our group had a lot of really cool ideas and thoughts. One of the things was about how staff capacity and parental pushbacks were like, some big things that were hindering the environmental scan findings, like really getting put out there. And so maybe it would be interesting to like host a AWI grant funded breakfast or get together for parents to like get them the information, get them that buy-in so that then they can champion it at those school districts.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of very similar to like how a teenager doesn't want to hear to a parent or doesn't want to listen to what a parent has to say about drugs and alcohol use and stuff. They want to listen to their peers, similar to these parents and the other people and staff that are within the school. They don't want to hear about it from other people. They want to hear about it from their peers that they think really understand where they're coming from. And so that was really cool.
Love it. Love that idea. Fantastic. How about another group want to share? And this will all come back out to you guys.
I can share, Terry.
Okay, great. Thanks, Felicia.
Our group really was honing in on connection with the PTAs and some kind of partnership. They do tons of activities, and maybe we can help fund one of those activities, and really create that cohesive, maybe in the future for educational presentations to those parent groups, etc.
Love it. Thank you so much. How about one more before we head on to the next agenda item?
I can just, I think one of the things that we identified in the data was that it's mostly school personnel who are actually doing the education. And so providing them with resources or being part of professional development days to make sure that they have access to resources and tools that they can use. Since they're already doing it, how can we support them better in those efforts?
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's great. John, we got some ideas. So we've got some things cooking, and yeah, he's got his little pad there. We'll get, and I will put all of this together and send this back out. We may revisit this again in June to see if there's a few things that are coming to the surface in order to continue to move it forward. So thank you guys so much. We are now going to just do some brief little updates with our action teams, and I am really excited. I'd like to welcome Anne Marie. Anne Marie, there you go. Anne Marie St. John from Parents Place. And Anne Marie, I can screen share for you.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So thank you very, very much. I'm part of the Recovery Support Action Team, and we had a consensus workshop to come up with action items for 2026. So we had Rogers Behavioral Health, Parents Place, Waukesha County Services, Danoon, Wiz Hope, Wellbrook Recovery. This one I'm not going to be able to say. Betty Ford Foundation and WCTC all joined us, and we had a fun day of getting together and talking with each other and coming up with some really great ideas. So the three focused areas that we came up with were to start an addiction and recovery campaign, to increase awareness of community needs and resources, and increasing access and resources for justice-involved individuals. So we kind of aligned around practical community-wide strategies that are going to have measurable impact. So we wanted to talk about educating parents, having Narcan training in schools, getting resources out to the community.
And Anne Marie, I want to also mention that these are aligning with the recommendations that are coming out of the overdose fatality review as well. So we're supporting that as well.
Yes.
Would you like me to advance?
Yep, next slide.
Okay, great.
So our primary strategy for 2026 is to increase awareness and accessibility of recovery resources across Waukesha County. So our first step was to update the collaborative community resources document, and we're going to do that by April 15th. Once that document is updated, we want to develop a public-facing flyer with QR codes to be able to send people to the HTF website. And finally, we are going to come up with a distribution plan through schools, providers, community partners, mailings. We thought, everybody gets an electric bill, everybody gets a cable bill, that might be a good place to partner with. And we want to do that during Recovery Month in September.
There might be other, I was going to say, there might be other things that happen too, but this is a very doable strategy for sure.
Yeah. So, we want to do it because we want to reduce barriers to accessing help, improve system navigation for families, and then strengthen coordinated services across providers.
And that is it.
That's me.
If you are interested, Rachel, I think I've got everybody's, she's going to pop in all of the email addresses for the people on our different action teams, including the metrics and measures team. So she's going to pop that into the chat while we hear from Jamie and Joy from who are co-chairing the stigma reduction action team. And I want to mention too that Jim Hijma from Rogers is also co-chairing with Anne Marie. All of these community partners are leading these teams, and they're just doing a beautiful job. So thank you. Grateful to all that you're doing. And Jamie, I'll be your Vanna for you.
Okay. Joy, feel free to come off mute and jump in at any time. For our 2026 goal, we kind of more focused our start with what are our desired outcomes from the school? Like, kind of what do we want to see happen? We want to make sure that we see our community connection enhanced and strengthened. We want to have clarity and alignment, both as an action team, as making sure that the goals and desired outcomes of the Heroin Task Force and soon to be maybe otherwise named coalition might have. We want to make sure that we're being innovative and that it's not the same thing that we've always been doing, just doing something different and fresh. We want to have a shared purpose, and we want to make sure that we are taking that into consideration when coming up with whatever kind of goals and desired actions that we want to do. We want buy-in. We want everyone to feel part of and heard.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Actually, you can stay there. So we thought a tangible deliverable would be a really great goal and great way to meet all of those outcomes and like have this like really cool like physical thing. So we came up with the stigma reduction toolkit. And so when we started out, we thought that having some kind of leave behind, we're still fleshing out all of these glorious details, but having information and an actual tangible thing that we can use to help guide reducing stigma somewhere in our community would be awesome. So then our team was like, okay, well, what are some places where we want to start with this? And we thought healthcare students at WCTC would be great. And so we're going to use this as the first place that we're kind of piloting this toolkit, seeing how it goes, making revisions, and then looking at some of the other areas where this might be beneficial. I can talk today. So for example, maybe unions would have a great use for a stigma reduction toolkit. Maybe it would be amongst teachers. I mean, who knows? But we're starting with our healthcare students. And we actually had guests from WCTC come and join us. We had Veronica King and Dana Constantino. I'm hoping
Dina Constantino.
Constantino. Thank you. We had them come to our February meeting, and they got some feedback from some of their populace of the school to see where we might have information that is supplemental to the training that healthcare students already receive. So, for example, they had said that some scripts and videos or things that show actual action steps and tangible things that someone can do to actually reduce stigma rather than just being on a screen in a little box and being like, we can, reduce stigma. How? And so with this toolkit, we're like, okay, well, what if we start to incorporate the perspectives of students and staff of lived experience of where there are gaps in that current curricula for stigma reduction? Some of the things that we thought of in this last meeting that are specific would be having an actual template of, with this script, let's say you're going to the doctor and it's that first person you check in with, and I'm like, okay, let's go over your medication list. And when they're going through it, it's like, oh, you were on an opioid. Okay, you've discontinued it. Did you have any left? What did you do with it? Just so that we can help get a gauge of people that might need our assistance. If they still have some left, hey, I got this deterrent bag that you can have and you can make it disappear safely. So things like that would actually be, a good way to reduce stigma. And then it's not about like anything, even addiction based. It's just taking care of the substance. Mm-hmm. So a second tangible deliverable would be next steps for a future vision. What if we could develop some kind of continuing education credit video series where it's something that we can get buy-in from students that they want to see, that they can get extra credits for, that can, actually live for a while and show some of these, really great practice methods of ways to interact with people with a substance use disorder, or how to say things that are non-stigmatizing, or even when you're out in the community talking to someone about this, if they use language that's maybe not quite what we would like it to be, how can we just throw out there, just if you want, here's another way to say it, gentle nudges. So those are kind of some of the things that we're looking for. And we're also looking for fresh blood, aka new members. Come join us. We need you. We love you. So we do meet the third Wednesday of every month from 2 to 3 p.m. We are virtual most months, and we have a couple of in-person meetings. I believe our first in-person meeting is coming up in May. So we would love to see your smiling face.
Fantastic. Jamie, thank you. Joy, thank you. I appreciate you both. And we are at 4 o'clock. So Brenda, I'm going to let you take us home, and I'm going to bring up that last slide for you so you can bring us home here. And we do have a little, if you have a hot second, just to take a quick little 1-minute survey. It's helpful for us to continue, with our programming for you. So Brenda.
Well, thank you, everybody. I don't know about you, but I thought that this was such a rich meeting with so much information. It flew by, literally flew by. Our meeting summary will be put together and will be sent out to you within the next 10 days. So I'm excited that our first 2026 meeting is been completed. Please look forward to June 9th, where we can be in person again at the Waukesha County Business Alliance. That's been a great location for us. We will be there again in June. October 6th will be our wonderful fall in-person quarterly meeting, location TBD. And then our virtual meeting December 1st. Please, if you care to stick around, if we were together, this is the time when you would go run over and say hi to someone you didn't talk to, or find out how Mary Simon's cruise went, or one of those fun things. This is when you would do it. So please continue to stay on and chat with people and say hello. These are sometimes the best parts of these meetings as well. So thank you for everyone's attendance. Please take our survey, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you so much, Brenda. And I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to stop recording.